This may be your lucky day. You're going to meet somebody who is coming to you from Portugal, grew up and studied art in Belarus, Russia, and she is a superstar and an amazing painting. Please meet Daria Callie. Daria, welcome to Art School Live.
Hi, Eric. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here.
Oh, you are such a good artist. You're just incredible. Tell us what you're going to focus on today.
Yeah, so it was pretty hard to choose what to do. And by the way, to give you a little bit of the background, I primarily am working in oils and focus on figurative and realistic styles in my art. And I love painting portraiture. So when I was choosing on what to do today in just 40 minutes, since portraits take a lot longer, I decided to have something prepared already. And today we are going to continue to progress with and hopefully maybe finish this study behind me. And we will focus on brushwork primarily. I'll talk about how I apply paint, the importance of soft edges, and techniques to elevate realism, especially when it comes.
All right. Okay, well, that sounds good. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you go ahead and switch your camera over and we'll get the show officially started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rhodes. Now, here's your host, Eric Rhodes.
We haven't played that for a while. Welcome to Art School Live. I'm Eric Rhodes. We have been here every weekday since COVID began. And actually, for the first 7 months, every day. It's pretty crazy. We have a guest today who's going to blow you away. Her work is stunning. Look at that. Just look at that. It's absolutely incredible. How does somebody get to that level? Let's look at the next one. Look at that. She does beautiful portrait work, and you're going to learn a lot about how she's going to do this. So our guest today is Daria Callie, and so we want to make sure that you stick around for that. While she's getting everything ready, she's working on getting it all lined up. I just want to let you know, I'm going to be doing an event, a worldwide event on January 10th. It's called Art Marketing, Art Business Mastery Day. And it's one day that could transform your art career. We want to focus on 2025, making you the best and most money you can make in 2025. And we're going to work on a plan. We're going to teach you a lot of different principles of art business and art marketing to help you hit your goals and help you stretch yourself and get to the next level. So make sure to sign up for that. That's at streamlineartevents.com/marketing. Okay, I think Daria is here. Daria, are you ready?
Yes, pretty much. Can you see it well?
Oh yeah, we see it very well. It's beautiful.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to continue this one, but first let's do a quick run through the materials. I think you have a slide of my palette, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so these are the colors I'm going to be using today. From the left to the right, these are titanium white, cadmium yellow, orange yellow, cadmium orange, cadmium red, pale rose, alizarin crimson, burnt umber, and ultramarine blue. So this is not always my selection of colors, but I think for this particular study, it works great.
All right.
Also, in terms of brushes, I use round brushes, synthetic brushes from sizes ranging from 0 up to size 4. And I have some filbert and flat brushes as well. And excellent. I have paper towels, and I use linseed oil as my medium. And this is a 12 by 12 inch wood board.
Okay, wood board. All right, yeah. In case you're just tuning in, our guest is Daria Callie. She's from Belarus and now lives in Portugal. And we're working on brushwork today.
Okay, so let's see. I think that I'll be painting and talking, and it's usually hard to focus on both things for me, but hopefully, because I do have a lot to say about brushwork. I think that this is something that creates part of the personal artistic style, and it helps to elevate your work. It helps to also create more realism because you don't overblend as much. You have some movement in your work, and I do think that this is this does something to your work that really is special, and it adds textural variety as well, which makes artwork more interesting. So we're going to work on the hands. I think you have a small reference. Maybe you can put it somewhere in the corner for
we'll put it up
to see. But so this is still very rough. We'll continue working on it more, but I just wanted to show you how, let's say, how this is just one of the ways to do brushwork, because obviously there are many ways to approach brushwork, and everyone develops their own style in regards to it. And so there are many ways to approach it, and I will be sharing my techniques that I use and how I think about brushwork, things that work for me. But obviously there are many ways to approach it. So let's just get started. I usually start with darks, and I just want to establish some of the main forms and shapes. These are the fingers. And so I'm diluting my paint quite a bit at first.
Diluting it with linseed oil?
Yes, I don't use any solvents or thinners in my work.
Good.
Like for over 6 years, I haven't been, and I think that is really, I think that's really good. It's really
it'll keep you alive
much
longer.
more pleasant to work in the studio because there are no these fumes and smells that are unpleasant. So okay, now I'm just trying to establish like how I do have a little bit of a sketch. I don't know if you can see it, but I sketched it a little bit prior to that.
Did you originally paint this model from life or from a photograph?
No, I use the reference, but I use like a variety of references. That's why I just have the hands here. But the rest of it was kind of part of it from imagination, part of it from some other reference. I like painting from life though, but I do use references quite a bit.
I try to paint from life every week.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. What styles do you paint? Do you paint landscapes, portraiture? What do you focus on?
Yes, I do. I do both.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is really hard to paint and speak, but I do want to say a few things about brushwork, the way the way I think about it. So I usually think about it in a way like I'm tying bigger areas and shapes together. So I try not to look at each, like for example, finger here as a separated entity in a way. So I'm trying to also follow the form. Could you please maybe share the close-up of this painting that I showed you? Because I feel like, yes, it can be, oh, it flipped. So maybe you can see like there's some movement like near the eyes, and I'm trying to follow the form and the shape, and I've noticed that this is very helpful to build the shape and to, I think about it like hatching in drawing, you know, so it helps you to create it and helps to add movement, which I really like. So this is part of it, and I'm trying not to overblend. I'm trying to proactively like stop myself from over defining and perfecting things, because real things are not perfect. So it actually adds realism when you not polish things too much. We can go back to the, yeah. So and also I find that it really helps to think of the things. So this is gonna sound funny, but like many beginners make mistake of overblending things and over-defining things, like over-defining edges, for example, like of the nose, of the lips. They have this harsher edges and lines. And I found that for me personally, what's helpful is not think about it as a nose, for example, if we're painting nose. I just see it as values, as planes and values, because in our mind, when we think about painting nose, we tend to exaggerate things. We tend to, we have that need to kind of like project what we have in our mind. But it is much better to create realism when you are just thinking about values, just thinking about like how the form is, but not thinking about what specifically it is, if that makes sense. Do you understand, Eric? Does it make sense?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Okay. So.
Your English is impeccable.
Oh, thank you so much. I struggled with it a little bit, to be honest.
Well, you would never know it on this end. Everybody's giving you lots of positive comments. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you're new here, we're here every weekday at 12 noon. We've been here for since 2020. Really. So what is it about hands? Hands are not easy to do.
Yeah, I agree. I switched the brush to a bigger one. So yes, I actually really like painting hands. I think they're interesting to paint. I usually take a little bit more time with it. Right now, I am going to brush through it a little bit. But I do think that I like the shape. I like the shadows. It creates beautiful shadows sometimes. And yeah.
Hello, Turkey. Hello, Austria. Hello, Australia. A worldwide audience.
So now I'm trying to just look at the reference and just establish some of the main shapes that I see. Again, I'm a little bit rushing through the process. I'm usually a little bit more careful with that, to be honest. But I do want to have more on the canvas to look at. So I would show you a different technique that I do. But I need to have more here to work with.
You're very careful, which is great.
I'm trying to like leave some room for nails, but I think I'll just cover it anyway for now. I also use paper towels, and sometimes, like if I have excess paint on my brush, I wipe it off. And before picking up a new color as well, I rinse it a little bit in linseed oil. And yeah, it's just part of my process. And I think this is helpful.
I think if I could paint like you paint, I'd give up what I do now to do that.
No way. Okay, let's see. I'm usually way more careful though, but like I said, right now I just want to fill up the space a little bit.
I want everybody to notice how she did a test shot. She laid one down, looked at it and evaluated it before she decided to fill everything in.
And speaking about realism, I think that primarily we need to focus on the values, of course, but also color shifts in terms of like hues matter also, because our skin is not one solid color. It has a lot of greens, a lot of blues, yellows, reds, and so this is also very important to take into account. And that's what I'm trying to do here as well. If you can see, like this is a bit more yellow. And in the shadows, we usually see a lot of red, which I'm also going to put here. Kind of messy. Like here we see a bit the back of her hand.
Question from Alice is, what colors are in the hand shadows? You said there's a little bit of red in there.
Here in the shadows, yes, absolutely. There is a bit of red in there. You mean like here,
Yeah.
near the fingers? Yes, I usually use burnt umber plus alizarin crimson for like the darkest shadows. And also, speaking about shadows, I really like, I don't know if you can see it here, for example, I really like the darkest parts to be a little bit more luminous. Like I don't cover it fully. Like I want to see the streaks a little bit, and I want to make shadows a little bit more transparent in a way, because I feel like it adds dimension, and I feel like it is, it also creates this movement and shape, and I think that's beautiful.
It is.
And obviously the study is very rough. Like if I were to work on it more, I would work a little bit more on the symmetry. I do most of the work wet on wet on the first layer. But then after it dries, I do like to do glazing, for instance. I do like to correct a few things, make a few adjustments, step away from the paints, and, you know, sometimes turn it around just to see how it all comes together, because it's very important. I look at the likeness. I look at the you know, to have correct proportions.
So someone asked the question, do you use a solvent in the early stages? And you don't. You're just using linseed oil. Is that correct?
Yes, I stopped using solvents quite a bit ago, and I'm happy with it, honestly. I feel like it simplifies the process and it doesn't smell. And my paint, I like the consistency of my paint to begin with. I usually don't dilute them too much. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, because so for the study, I also pre-mixed a few tones primarily. So I have the colors that I mentioned, and then I have a few tones that are like basic tones, like I call them base tones, but basically it's some of the tones that you can, if you look at the reference, you see a lot of that similar tone, and then you can work with it and you can adjust it and create new colors and tones from it. But I sometimes pre-mix a couple of colors, and for this study I did the same thing, and it also saves a little bit of time. So that's just, yeah, that can be helpful.
Excellent. If you guys have questions, make sure to step up and ask them, and I'll make sure that we pass them along.
Okay.
And make sure you tell us where you're watching from. And if you're new, say so. How do you lay in the proportions at the beginning?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes I do a little sketch. Like here, for example, it was like a pencil sketch. You just, yeah, just do a starting sketch. Sometimes I transfer some of the main outlines. I use like for example, I have a sketch on paper, and then I cover the other side with graphite, and then I put it like this, and then I put the main outlines, like with the eyes, with the, like, just to have something to work with already. And so it's like the basic outline, which can guide you. But oil paint is so like fluid. You have to always, even if you have a sketch, you have to always look at the reference and check it and double check it, and just like always be also proactive about it and mindful where things go, because even if you have a sketch, lines usually shift and move all the time. And yeah.
Hello, San Miguel Diente, Mexico. Carl asked, on your wet on wet technique, does dry brush work come into play for your blending?
Yes, this is what I wanted to talk about now. But first I wanted to cover more of the space, because yeah, can I just like do this first? Yeah. I want to make sure that we have some darks here, because it was bothering me that it's kind of like the weight is not there, because here it's also a shadow. And I'm sure we're not going to finish this today, because it's really, really hard for me to speak and paint. I'm usually very dialed in when I'm painting, but not in the sense of like going into this, you know, sometimes you are listening to music and you're in this flow state, right? And sometimes I notice that it gets a little bit in the way of me painting. I do want to be a little bit more mindful of my process, because otherwise, like sometimes I forget, like I kind of get carried away, if that makes sense. And I like being more intentional with my brushwork, for instance. So let me just quickly show you. So what I usually do, I don't use fully, even though sometimes I do use fully dry brushes, but sometimes it's enough to just have it a little bit like kind of like this dry. And this is soft brushes. You can also use fan brushes, because if the brushes are too hard, it will scratch off too much paint. And you have to be careful with values. So now, again, I don't have still enough here to work with. But for example, if I want to blend this area, I just do it like this very carefully and leave this kind of streaky nature, I wanted to say. I don't know if that's proper English, but it has this kind of texture, and I really like that as well. Again, you can see it here and then other parts, like I've done it here with the, for example, with the ear, I have used, I'll show you. I think I use brush like this, for example. I have fan brush, and just this type of brushes, when they're completely dry, you can just like do this very, very carefully without it, and be thoughtful about values as well, because in that process you don't want to mess up the values or like milk your shadows, because shadows, sometimes you want to keep them a little bit like deeper, darker in some places, and if you're blending or like creating that effect in the nearby area, it's really easy to swipe it off as well. You know what I mean? And so you have to be very mindful of values as well, because values is like the main thing for realism.
So that blending brush that you use, the one you showed before, the fan brush, that looked like it may have been a 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶?
No, actually, all of my brushes are synthetic right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But I do like, I used 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶 before, but this one is synthetic.
I have
synthetic.
I have 1,000 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶 brushes that I bought in Russia when I was over there in 2004. And the exchange rate was so high, I bought brushes for about 10 cents each. So I bought 1,000 of them.
Whoa.
𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶𝗍.
Oh, that's amazing. I used those as well. That's true. I also wanted to quickly mention that in the introduction, you said Belarus and Russia. These are actually two different countries, but it's close to Russia. And we have also there. Oh, no problem. I just like to clarify things sometimes because it's confusing, I guess. But we also have 𝗕𝗿𝗶𝗶, and good prices brushes there. Also, every time I go there, I buy a lot of art supplies, so which is nice. They're also in good quality supplies. So let me see. I like to switch brushes in the process pretty much all the time, because like some of the brushes already have darker pigment in them, and it's just easier to work with just darker colors using that brush, and then you switch to a different one and you use and you pick up a new color that's lighter. Are there any more questions in the chat?
Not yet. Maybe they want you to show your palette at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
So they can see your piles of color.
Okay, now normally what I would do at this stage, when we have more to work with, I usually don't like to spread out too much. I like to establish, like, for example, here the darker tone. Obviously, it's very messy, but it's like visually, like some of the darker like patches, and it creates a shape already. And now I can work a little bit more, not into details, like you still work from general to specific, but focus on refining a little bit before going on, because I noticed that if you cover the whole area at once, it's sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. Because I usually pick up a lot of like on all of the mistakes, and it seems like a lot of work, more than it actually is. And when you kind of take it slower and a little bit step by step, I noticed that it's a little bit more manageable. It's a little bit easier to get things done.
There is a question about how you prepared your board.
Oh, that came pre-primed.
Pre-primed.
It was completely ready. But if you're asking me about how I usually do that, when I paint on canvas, for instance, if it comes pre-primed, I sand it a couple more times. I put primer, like acrylic primer, or gesso works well as well. I really like smooth surfaces, or like smoother ones without too much texture, because canvas can be rough sometimes, especially linen canvases.
Well,
was
especially to
like,
get those kind of skin tones, then your canvas weave is going to show through that.
exactly, yes. And it also creates some of the lighting, like some areas you want to be more smooth and show more of the texture that we're creating, like today, for instance, of the brushwork. And when it's a rough canvas, the lighting falls and like it creates its own texture, and it kind of interferes with what I'm trying to create, you know? So smoother surfaces definitely work better if you want this type of effect. Yeah, and so after I work with like these bigger brushes and establish at least some of the forms, I do like to take the smaller brush. I think this is in size 1. And as you can see, I don't know if you can see, they're not very pointy, they're not very put together. So this is also, like we talked about before, dry brush technique, when I am trying to push some of the paint around a little bit in the shape that I want it to be. So it's a little bit like refining things that are smaller. Like, for example, this was too far, like the edge. We needed to push it in here. And this is a little bit like too. And that also creates softer edges, which is also very important for realism, because if some of the edges are too harsh or too outlined, it can look cartoonish, it can look kind of weird. And so this is how I usually create softer edges. I either use this type of brush when it's, as you can see, it's not very put together, and you create that type of edge, like smoothen it in a way, but still leaving some streaks, because I like that. Or like, for example, here, I don't know if you can see it very well, but here, instead of having this just rough ending of her face, this is like, there is like a little streak here next to it. I call it doubling. That's not called like that. I don't know, it's just my own, sometimes I come up with my own language, but like here, for instance, this is like smoother, and here just like there's an extra streak, and it also helps like extend the form, but without it just being blurry, if that makes sense. Like I do that sometimes. Maybe this is a little bit exaggerated. Again, I took very little like time, usually less than I usually would, to do this study, because I didn't have much time to prepare. But I wanted to have something for today's lesson to work with and to show you already on the canvas, because I knew that it was going to be really hard for me to speak and paint, because I
think you're doing a great job. There's no problem with that.
Thank you so much. But I don't like to multitask. It just doesn't really work for me very well.
Well, multitasking is probably not real.
In terms
I'm going to show her palette one more time, because some people in the chat have been asking about it. She has pre-mixed some piles of colors also, but that's her basic palette.
Yes, it's usually the selection of colors I go with for things like that. But I do have also some green. I don't remember how it's called, because I've been experimenting with a few greens. And I have, I think, what else do I have? I have a few colors that I add sometimes, like cerulean blue, for instance. But I use them for special occasions, more or less. Like, you know, some type of clothing when I paint that has that color.
So there's a question from someone, no name. Did you study the Barg drawing course, or how did you learn to get such nice proportions in your art?
I don't know what Barg course is. Do you know, Eric? Could you clarify that for me?
Barg did drawings back in the 1800s that show perfect idealistic proportions of arms and feet and hands and faces. And a lot of art schools use the Barg. They make people draw those. They're drawings of casts. And then once they've done those, they can draw casts. So how did you learn? What was your process? Yes,
that's a good question then, because I didn't do, and I didn't know obviously about this particular method, but I do have architecture degree, and we did draw casts there. We had drawing classes even before I got into painting. We had some technical drawing. We drew this famous Greek casts and stuff like that. And I think it was really helpful for me because it gave me some fundamental technical skills to begin with that I can build on top of when I started oil painting. Because I started myself like oil painting. I don't like the word self-taught necessarily, but I haven't had like classes like specifically in regards to oil painting, but I do attribute a lot of my, let's say, success to those classes in university in the architecture program.
Cool.
Picking up
So you decided not to pursue architecture, you're going to pursue painting.
I did work in like part-time as an architect, but it wasn't like really a job that I don't know, it didn't fulfill me in that way. And obviously you start from the very bottom. When you graduate, you don't become this big visionary creator of an architect. And I really like drawing. I started like painting and drawing when I was like 5 years old, and I really liked that. And yeah, it kind of happened naturally. And I started to share my work online on YouTube and Instagram, and it kind of kept going and going. And so here I am.
We'll put your Instagram up on in the comments so people can find you.
Thank you so much. I come back to those darker colors and reestablish them, because when you are like mixing more colors, you start to lose some of the depth. And again, I like, as you saw, I like to start establishing shapes in the beginning very loosely and with these more of a diluted color to create those luminous shadows and to have more room to work with and bring those darker tones. For example, if I want to have this like a darker accent here, it will still be visible because this part, even though it's dark and maybe I will darken it more, you can have this kind of effect. And then it's just useful for later on to not like put a lot of color and a lot of dark and a lot of, you know, everything.
Yeah. And is the linseed oil that you use, is it thicker or thinner? It's
thinner. I tried using, what's it called? Stale, not stale.
Stand oil.
Yes, it's a little bit thicker, and I liked it for a while, but then I switched to bleached linseed oil.
Bleached linseed oil.
Yes, and you know what I like lately a lot? I like refined safflower oil because it tends to yellow less, and it also helps to keep your colors wet for longer. And since I work wet on wet primarily, it is actually a good benefit for me.
All right. Learn something new every day.
I'm adding a little bit of red here, because the tips of the fingers usually this pinky shade. And by this point, I usually would establish more of the nail, but right now I feel like I don't really want to get into it because we don't have much time. And there are a few things I think I wanted to say more about the brushwork. Let's see. I think I talked about paint consistency. So my paint is quite creamy, and it comes like that out of the tube. But if your paints are a bit more stiff, you can achieve that consistency very easily. So it has to be like creamy, not too fluid, unless like for the shadows, it can be a bit more fluid. But you know, mainly it's kind of like this. And so when I think about realism, like I said, changing the brush, I primarily think about the values. So right now, again, I haven't done like a very good job here because, like I said, it's a bit difficult. But I think about values first, and then I think about hues. And then I kind of, on top of that, I keep in mind the movement, the brushwork, this type of like, I guess it's a part of, like I said, personal style, but also it helps to to create this kind of beautiful effect and textural variety. And I really like, when I look at work, for example, from John Singer Sargent or Zorn, I really like their work because it looks very messy up close. They have this expressive brushstrokes, and then when you step away from the painting, it all comes together beautifully. And I always admired that. There are quite a few contemporary painters as well that have this kind of quality in their work, and I really find that inspiring.
Our guest today is Daria Callie in Portugal, but from Belarus originally. That's where she learned architecture and learned to paint.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lovely composition.
Thank you. I watched quite a few videos on composition on Art School Live, actually.
Oh, I'm glad to know that you watch.
Yeah, occasionally.
What, not every day? What's wrong with you?
Well, sometimes I don't have time, but I really like your videos. There's a lot to learn there. I like your critiques as well. I found it useful, especially for beginners. I think they get a lot of value from those videos.
Yeah. Well, most of the people who submit are, well, there's different stages. Once in a while, we get somebody who's really challenging because they've done such a good job. Why did you decide to move to Portugal? Is Alex's question.
Oh, that's kind of a long story, but well, basically, I like the weather. I like that it was easier to get the residence card. Not easy, but it was like possible for me in my situation. And I had some friends here, and the food is great. It just seemed like a really good place to move to relocate, and at least see what it's like. Because before moving here, I spent like quite a bit of time in Brazil, and so I thought I understand like some Portuguese, and I thought it's going to be very similar to Brazil and like Brazilian Portuguese, but it's actually quite different. And culture is obviously very different, but it's great here. It's really nice. I wish I could speak better Portuguese though, because day to day, it's best to be able to communicate. That's my constant problem.
My friend 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗂𝗶 is living in Portugal. You probably don't know him, but he studied 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗂𝗶. He studied in St. Petersburg at the Repen. And he and some other artists moved to Portugal. I'll have to put you together.
Have you been to Portugal?
I'm sorry?
Have you been to Portugal? If you have, did you like it here?
I love it.
Which city did you visit?
I visited several. I'd like to come back and paint.
I think there were a lot of like, not a lot of, but a few art retreats are held in Portugal, I noticed.
Yeah, I was invited to teach a workshop by somebody who had an art retreat in Portugal. But I declined. How many tones did you pre-mix when you pre-mix some tones?
Yeah, I usually would mix like 4 maybe for like paints in the face. And right now also I think I have 4.5, let's say. But you don't need that many. It depends what you're painting and the variety of like sometimes you have deeper shadows and brighter tones here and there, and it's just like it makes sense to premix a little bit more, and it also saves time, like I said. So I like that, but I also don't like to go overboard with it because it actually kind of complicates it, makes it more confusing. And a lot of the stones, when they're similar, it's just easier to mix like right away to like adjust that color that you already have on the palette.
Well, this has been wonderful, Daria. We're going to keep going while we can, but we know that you've got a camera's battery that's going to expire here pretty soon. And so if we'll go till we're close to that time. But I just want to thank you in advance in case you drop out.
Okay.
We got a lot of people interested in your artwork, and so we'll talk more.
That's nice. I wanted to say thank you so much for having me on the show. It's I've been so excited, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, excellent. Well, we'll do something together. We'll create something. We'll have you on some other things that we do. You're doing such a good job.
Thank you so much.
I hope you guys are enjoying this. Now, will you sometimes leave something like the hands a little bit unfinished, just to make it feel like a painting?
Yes, I usually like to do that. But here, for instance, maybe I would work on this because it's kind of a focal point as well. Because when you look at here, like at her face, and then you glance here, I would like add more details to this part. But maybe like here, or especially here, to keep it more abstract in a way.
Yeah.
Also here, for instance, I don't know. Yeah, you probably can see it a little bit. There'll be like a hat, or like some kind of what's it called?
Scarf.
Let's call it a hat, but maybe a scarf. Yes. I feel like I don't need to finish maybe this part. I will work on this a little bit more in the transition. But it's nice. You brought up a really good point.
Yeah, it's very lovely. Well, I guess you should paint my portrait. Add it to my portrait collection.
I can. That would be cool.
We're working on a show of all the portraits I've been painted by some of the finest portrait artists in the world, many of whom are now gone. So we're working on a museum show of all the portraits.
Wow.
Why don't you show your palette real quick, just in case your camera goes out, because we know that.
Oh, yes, of course.
We're getting very close to it. It might end, and if it ends abruptly.
For real, let me get the brushes out of the way. Yeah, it's a heavy palette. It's a handmade palette. I made it myself with a piece of glass and some acrylic paint.
Okay.
And it's pretty heavy. So I'll just show it here.
Oh, yeah.
Can you see?
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Okay.
That helps us understand the piles that you did.
Yeah,
there.
so let me, so heavy. So I premixed a few. This is for like the lightest tone, and this is like variations of shadows. And then if you can see here, I add something, and here I work as well with the stones to create a variety of hues.
Excellent. Well, this has been very helpful. We'll keep going until you cut out, but we do want to say thank you. Everybody give her thumbs up and applause. She named the colors, Andrea. She named the colors at the beginning of the show. You can go back and watch that. You're so neat. Somebody said you're so neat. You're not very sloppy. I'm sloppy.
Maybe I'm a little bit more neat because I'm on camera as well. But I've heard that before. But usually I'm a little bit more messy, but I still try to keep things under control.
What kind of lighting do you use in your studio?
I have a softbox here that I use right now as well to lit this. And yes, and I have it's not an overhead light necessarily, but like a lighter, like a lamp there. And I have a table lamp on the palette.
Okay.
To light the palette. Yeah.
We're going to keep going. Our guest is Daria Callie in Portugal, and but her camera has a 45-minute limit on the battery, so it could pop out at any time. We're going to keep going until then, and she won't be able to come back on camera and say goodbye. But unless you want to do that now,
I can. I just want to also say that I will continue working on the painting like after, and then I can send you the final photograph of it if you want for the viewers to see how it ended up being.
Absolutely.
If you want to. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I can do that.
Well, this has been fabulous. Lots of applause. Beautiful work. People all over the world saying they love it.
Oh, that's so nice.
Are you doing any teaching?
Yes, I teach on Patreon, and I used to do some in-person master classes. I don't have any planned right now, but I do plan maybe next year to get back into it. What else? Yeah, that's mostly. So I also have online course. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's outdated, but it's I feel like it's some time already passed, and I picked up a little bit, like a few more techniques by this point. But it's also a good resource for some people, especially beginners, people who are starting with oil painting or portraiture.
Okay.
Let's see if there is something more I can do here. It is messier than I usually would do it, but
All right. Well, we're over the time of the camera, so let's keep going. Let's see how long it will. We'll have.
Or I can go. You sure? I can go back on camera if you want and say
Whatever you want
goodbye.
to do.
Or...
I think it'd be nice for people to meet you, but you've really done a beautiful job.
But people can find me like on YouTube or whatever. Like they can. But I really wanted to like bring some value today and show some of the techniques. And yeah, I hope it's been useful. I hope it's been helpful.
It's been very good.
So this area is usually a little bit more red, and the knuckles also a little bit more red as well in hue. It can be a little subtle, like very subtle change in color, but it usually creates, like a little bit can go a long way as well. And it's really true in realism. Because sometimes it's not really a value change, it's a hue change, but it also creates it's the same like you, for example, Eric, you had when you have the those videos where you critique people's work, you make it black and white sometimes, and then you bring it back in color, and that's where you can see also this variety, and it just adds to it so much more. And these little things that that are very subtle, that they can help a lot with with realism and make the artwork more beautiful.
If you guys are enjoying this, give a thumbs up or applause, and please leave a comment. And make sure if you want to subscribe to this program that you subscribe. Just go to YouTube, look up Art School Live. We're here every weekday, and make sure to give me a follow, Eric Rhodes, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and X and everything. People are saying they learned a lot today. This is good.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
It's really lovely. Could you take that panel and get it real close to the camera so we can see the hands?
Yes, sure. Just a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Keep coming. That's doing great.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So now
Wait,
you can
maybe
see
I
the
can refocus.
you can see the it's good. You can see the brushwork. It's very good.
Yes, it's very messy. It needs a lot of work, but it's a good start, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you come on camera real quickly, because we're not going to be able to finish it anyway.
Yes, or not. Okay. Just give me a second.
All right. Take a look at some of her work while she's getting her camera ready. Just incredible work. We are so blown away by the quality. It's just really beautiful. That's really cute. Okay. All right, she's back. Here we go.
Well, not fully, but
Well,
let's see. Okay.
okay. Well, you can sit down and then there you go. Well, congratulations. You did a beautiful job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're going to lose your camera. We'll tell everybody to follow you on Instagram, and then they can find out all about your Patreon and all the other things that you do. But really great lesson today, Daria. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing.
So there was no reason to be nervous, was there?
I guess not. I've never done live before. So for me, it was like a new thing. That's why I was a little bit more nervous than I usually would be.
Well, when you push yourself to do things outside of your comfort zone, you crushed it. You did a great job. You now have that confidence. You can do that.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do something special with you in the future. Amandin's going to reach out to you, and we'll talk about some things that we could do together.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
All right. Yes. Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Daria.
Thank you. Thank you again, Eric. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. So sweet. What a sweet person. Oh, what a pleasure. Okay. I want to tell you guys about a couple of things. First off, we've got Watercolor Live coming up. Watercolor Live is the world's largest conference on watercolor. It's all online. We have a worldwide audience. It's the 22nd through 24th of January, and there's an optional techniques day for early stage painters, a refresher on the 21st. We have some of the top artists in the world that are teaching. It's always a great event. So make sure to check that out. And then also we have, I have an art retreat coming up, and this is a great Christmas present. It's going to be called Winter Art Escape. It's in St. Augustine, Florida in February. So you can escape winter and come and paint with me in Florida for a week. We sit up at night. It's like summer camp for adults. We don't allow kids. I guess young people are fine. I mean, you just got to be, I won't even open that door. But you know, typically college age and above is what we typically get. And so join us in St. Augustine for Winter Art Escape. And that's, I don't know how far along it is, but it's getting closer to being sold out. It'd be a good Christmas present. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in today. We have a free gift for you. Let's pop that up real quickly. And our free gift today is 97 Incredible Art Secrets from the world's finest artists. It's video. You can watch it online, or you can get DVD if you want to pay for the shipping. Just go to 97artsecrets.com/free. All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Thanks again to Daria Callie. Bye-bye.